And you've shared that when you were younger and when you were in college and a doctor, mentioned to you like, oh, you might be dealing with anxiety, you kind of went into a state of denial and you didn't believe that. And I feel like within today's day and age, that wouldn't necessarily happen as much, or like
Right.
people would just be much more open to it.
Hmm.
What do you think has created that shift?
That's a great question. I don't know the exact societal forces there, but I've definitely seen that shift. So there are benefits and drawbacks here. The benefit is that we're normalizing mental health as an important feature of our lives that we should be paying attention to. The downside that I think you're highlighting is that the more normalized it becomes, the more people can take it on as an identity. And especially young people, in their teenage years, we can all remember back to our teenage years with cringe. At least I do. I don't know anybody that was like, wow, that was great. I sailed through junior high school. That was awesome. I'd repeat it. so so there's a lot of cringe there because we're trying to develop our identity. Who am I? And so if there's an identity that's out there in the zeitgeist that says anxiety, and we go on social media and we see that people are celebrating that, like, oh yeah, I'm anxious, I'm anxious, I'm anxious. One, that gives us an in group to relate to immediately. Two, it gives us something that we can latch onto as an identity that feels stable, even if it's uncomfortable, because anxiety doesn't feel good. But we can say, oh yeah, that's who I am. And with that, it can become ingrained to the point where it creates problems. Just as an example, a reporter, I was talking to a reporter a little while ago who is writing a book on anxiety, and she's, basically, her premise, from what I could tell from our conversation, was that she had generalized anxiety disorder since high school, and she had it for a long time, and there was nothing that had helped her. And when we finished that conversation, I was really scratching my head wondering, like, what's going on? And I realized, oh, if she gets cured, if she does better, she doesn't have a book to write.
Mm.
you know, if the book's all about, like, this is something that nobody can solve. And so there's an example of where we can be really identified with anxiety to the point where we can't even imagine anything different, or there could be another driving force, whether it's conscious or subconscious, saying, hey, you gotta keep this identity. And I remember when we were first pilot testing one of our anxiety programs, one of our pilot testers wrote me a beautiful email depicting how identified she was with her anxiety. And she said, it is deeply etched in my bones. I wrote a Substack about this because it was so striking on how identified people can be with their anxiety. And the good news is it's a habit, right? And identity can be a habit. And if it's something that we can learn, it's something we can unlearn.
And another important point that I think needs to be said to build off of that, and something that I really took away from your work, is that we can see anxiety and stress as just being this, big wall in front of us that it's impossible to, either climb over or, break through. But it's important to see that it's not something that just is or just exists, but it's made up a lot of different variables that
Mm-hmm.
are malleable. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're able to, shift those variables around, you're like, oh, this is just a lot of small pieces and I'm in control of these things.
Yes. Yes. And I think you're highlighting something really important where, going back to the identity piece, when we think this is just who I am, how do you work with that? When you really break it down and you ask, oh, what does this anxiety feel like in my body? What are the thoughts that come up, and how do those thoughts and feelings play off of each other? Then now we've got, these quanta that we can work with. Oh, it's tightness. Oh, it's restlessness. Oh, here's this worry thought. And we can see how they play off of each other, where the feeling of anxiety can trigger the worry thought, which then feeds back and drives more anxiety. And now we've got something to work with. There are great tools to be able to help people, be with their physical sensations and not feed their thoughts, as compared to just, giving up the ghost, saying, I have no idea how to work with this, or even not even imagining they can work with it because they're so identified with it.